I see what old chaps and chappets, Game Chap and Buddy here.
Yes.
Yes, indeed, fellows, and I dare say we are discussing here some very interesting news about Nintendo, about TV, and all that sort of thing, and this is very exciting, old chap, I have to say.
Well, it most certainly is, yes indeed, especially in the light of the new Wii U Zelda game coming out this year.
That's right.
It's all very exciting. Now, this involves a company called Netflix.
Netflix. Now, have you heard of them, fellows? Of course you have.
Well, must have done. Netflix is very, very popular. And, of course, the famous, well-known provider of internet streaming media.
That's right, indeed.
So, what's it about? Well, apparently, this Netflix have landed a deal or are working with Nintendo
Yes.
to produce a live-action, apparently, TV-type series based on an extremely famous property. And what might that be? Well, none other than The Legend of Zelda.
The Legend of Zelda. Good. Are you telling me here, right now, Elton?
Yes.
The Legend of Zelda is going to possibly get a live-action TV series?
Well, this is the rumours. This is what's being said out there. Yes, indeed, that they're working together on a TV-type series, so not a film as such,
Yes.
but like a TV-type series of The Legend of Zelda.
That is absolutely amazing. That's very exciting, Elton. I
Oh, it
have to
most
say,
certainly
my
is.
mind is already buzzing with ideas of where this could go. This is really incredible. And of course, it would be the first time in recent years that we've actually seen the famous property live on TV. But of course, no doubt the question on many people's minds is what will they do with it?
Well, exactly. Just saying that.
It's very interesting.
Well, it is. Well, he said live action there, so it looks like this is going to be just that, rather than a cartoon.
Yes.
Or this type of thing. You know,
or
animation type
CG
thing.
animated, yeah,
Yes, this type
right.
of thing. It looks like it's going to actually, with real actors, as it were.
Indeed, that's right. Now, according to the rumours that are going round, Fedels, they're going to be making a live-action show about, let's get this straight,
Yes.
a boy named Link who has to rescue a princess called Zelda and save the land of Hyrule.
Hang on a minute, I've heard that somewhere before.
Where
that
have I
story.
heard this before, El Chap?
Yes, I know that. That's yes, yes. It's something to do with that game.
That one.
Yes,
That's right.
yes.
I just hope there's no owls in it, old boy, that talk to you for ages on end. But
Well,
anyway.
certainly. So that's the story.
That's the story,
Yes.
and the unnamed source behind this said it would be described as a Game of Thrones for a family audience.
Yes, that's what they're saying. A Game of Thrones type thing.
Right.
Family audience, sort of orientated. So we're going to have actors in it, apparently. They're going to be acting out the parts of the Zelda characters.
Yes.
Within, I don't know what they'll do as a background or a set for it, but this is the basic thing that they're looking at doing.
That's
TV
right.
type series.
A TV series, in fact.
TV series, indeed, based on Zelda.
That is very exciting, but of course we have to say, many times in the past people have taken on properties like games and done a really cheesy job. And of course we don't want to see a cheesy job with our beloved Zelda series now, do we?
Well, that's a very good point. Yes, indeed, they have. Nintendo are notoriously extremely possessive and very, very sort of cautious with their property, as it were.
They are very protective, that's right, of their characters and their games, indeed.
Well, certainly, and of course we know that they're back a little while ago. In fact, they were working on this thing, I think, between 04 and 09, 2004, 2009.
Yes.
A film, actually. I think it was called The Hero of Time, as I remember.
Oh, that's right, that was that fan-made one, old chap.
Yes, indeed, they worked on it for years, and I think that they did this film, and I think that was live action as well. They brought it out or tried to bring it out in 09ish or something around there, some sort of time, 2009.
And apparently it got some screenings at theatres and film festivals, but of course the
It
whole
did.
thing, it wasn't authorised by Nintendo in any way, really. It was just a fan project, really.
Well, never mind, but they did it.
They did it.
They worked on it for years, but Nintendo moved in with a mighty hammer and just slapped the thing down, just destroyed it and said, "No way you're doing that." Took it off of every platform and said no.
They brought down Link's hammer, that's right, they pulled the plug on the fan venture and apparently shut it down with effect from the 1st of January 2010. So that was the end of that one. But of course, this, however, is a completely different matter. And we have a very large and famous company, Netflix, working very closely with Nintendo to make this thing a reality.
Well, yes, it does seem that way, and of course, apparently this isn't the first time we've seen something Zelda-related anyway on the screens.
That's right.
Way back there, I think it was 1989 or early 90s, there was something going on with Mario and Zelda there, wasn't there?
Oh, very much. Of course, the classic Super Mario Bros. Super Show. Did you recall that, old chap? You must.
Sort of.
You have to, with those two chaps in there, and you had the live action bit inside their little Brooklyn hideout, and then you had the cartoon side as well, and of course there was also a Legend of Zelda 1 too, with the famous line, "Excuse me, princess," etc. and so forth.
Yes, that was animated, wasn't it?
They were animated, very much classics these days with all the antics that went on, but of course they are long consigned to the history books. We haven't heard anything from them for the last 20 years, for goodness sake.
Well, no, we haven't at all. They were allowed at the time by Nintendo.
They were.
But then they sort of went, and of course, in lots of people's minds, and no doubt, Nintendo's minds as well, was of course the Mario movie that they did, which was a little bit sort of, a little bit not received very well.
Well, it was sort of a bit of a flop, really.
It was indeed.
After the failure of the 1993 film Super Mario Bros. Videos, Nintendo have indeed been very cautious about not allowing any repeats of that mistake. But of course, in recent times, they have actually warmed up a little bit, old boy. And we did have some news not too long ago about whispers of some Mario animated movies on the way, apparently.
Yes, apparently that was the case, yes indeed. That was something to do with Sony Pictures, I believe.
I think so. Apparently Sony said they had signed various deals with Mr. Iwata and all that sort of thing to make Mario animated films. So it would make sense and seem to me as if Nintendo are now looking to branch out more into film and TV.
Well, yes, this is a very interesting point as well, of course, because it doesn't just go for sort of Nintendo. There's lots of other games out there, etc., so forth, that are ripe to be bought perhaps onto a TV screen or even a film or whatever. And I think that a lot of the gaming companies must be considering this as a way of making extra profit apart from just selling games.
I think so, and of course we have been seeing some quite poor performance of the Wii U. Even after the Super Smash Bros. Release, people have still been saying, well, this console really isn't all that hot, it's a bit of a loser, they've been saying for Nintendo. The 3DS is still strong, but perhaps is not necessarily making the bank for them either, so maybe Nintendo is saying, we need something to tide us over until we get the next big console hit, which in this case may well be some, shall we say, revenues from film and TV and merchandise and all that sort of thing.
Well, yes, that could be the case, yes. I mean, whether it would come out before their next console, which we don't know when it will be, we don't know. But of course, the whole idea of having a TV show or a series is very interesting because they're not going for a film here.
No.
They're going for a TV type series. And of course, they're basing it on the internet, using Netflix for this, because obviously they feel that they can reach a large audience like that.
That's right. Now,
and maybe as well, just chipping in there,
yes.
Perhaps it's cheaper than trying to bring something to the big screens, as it were, and then to find it just flopped.
Yes, of course, they already had potentially the Mario project underway on the big screen anyway, so maybe they thought we'll have the best of both worlds. We'll have a Mario one on the big screen and a Zelda one on TV screens.
Well, yes, exactly.
It's an interesting thought, of course, Fidelis. Now, also, apparently, of course, we are English, as you know, so we don't know too many of the shows that go on in America, but I do understand that many TV shows out there are actually very popular, so this could be exactly the kind of thing that would be received well in the American market, and maybe some of you chaps out there could also weigh in on that.
Well, certainly, yes, indeed. I mean, no doubt Nintendo, whoever's making this thing, would like to see, it sort of take off this sort of Simpsons type thing,
well, yes.
And really be that big, no doubt. But whether or not it would be, of course, we don't know, because this is rather sort of it's more people that know Zelda and know that type of thing that perhaps might be interested in it. Although, having said that, even those that haven't really followed Zelda, etc., so forth, may still find that they like watching the series, even though they don't know the background story to begin with.
Exactly, because of course it's very much in the style of something that we already have on TV, which is Game of Thrones, which of course really came from nowhere, if you ask me, old way. It's highly popular, so I do think audiences could be receptive to this kind of thing, which is basically, you've got all the medieval themes there, the horse riding, the swords, and all that sort of thing going on, but of course this time with a far more family-friendly image, so I do think it could still be popular, old chap. It's quite an interesting theory, I have to say, but also we do know, videos, and in any case, at this early stage of the proceedings, Netflix still need a writer for the series, and of course it's very possible that either side could still call the deal off.
Well, yes, it is possible, of course, and apparently, as you quite rightly said there, they still need a writer for the series.
Yes.
And I would imagine that writer is going to, whoever they may be, will have to know an awful lot about the Zelda series and be very familiar with it. Could it be perhaps one of Nintendo's staff or something like that writing it?
That's an interesting theory, and to be honest, if I put myself in Mr. Iwata's shoes or in Nintendo's shoes, I'd have to say the optimal person for this job would probably be someone like Mr. Aonuma, Kojima, the Legend of Zelda producer, or Mr. Miyamoto, or something like that, but of course you can't necessarily take them away from their existing job to say, right, we want you to write an entire script for a huge series of Legend of Zelda on TV as well. It might be asking too much of them, or they may not just have the time in the schedule for it, etc., and so forth.
Well, that's a good point.
I do think, as you say, whoever does end up writing this plot for TV will have to be very well versed with Zelda and know thoroughly all the stories of the games inside and out.
Well, yes, that's a good point you mentioned about that chap there. Of course, he can't do two jobs at once, but maybe he's got sort of, I don't know, like disciples or sort of thing.
Underlings.
Underlings that work underneath him that might be able to do that and then liaise with him. During the course of things. But whatever, there's no doubt at all that Nintendo will want to be very, very involved in this and will not want it portraying what they don't want the game to be portrayed or look like to the bigger audience out there. They're going to want it to be very, very in line with the style and feel of the Zelda. No doubt it, because as we've seen in the past, they can be very, very, very touchy over these type of things.
Well, understandably, because of course, if this TV show goes and presents an image of Link and Zelda that's not reflected in the games, then of course that will be very bad for Zelda's image, because of course people will think Link's a certain way when he's not. They'll go to play the games and say, well, this is completely different to what I've seen on TV. What's going on here?
Well,
and it could actually have a bad effect on them. So it's important they get this right. Now, of course, we have to remind you, Fails, at this stage, once again, this is all very much rumours. Netflix and Nintendo spokesmen have declined to comment. The Nintendo spokesman said, we don't comment on rumours and speculation, so this is by no means set in concrete, but it does appear to come from an industry source. So we can say there's definitely something on the boil here.
Oh, yes, most certainly. I mean, just because they say, we don't comment on rumours and speculation is because obviously, at that time they perhaps don't want people to, to really know what's going on.
Really?
They want to keep it.
Yes.
So they say, well, it's just a rumour at the moment because they can't say anything else. No doubt there's certain NDAs perhaps involved if they had conversations.
Oh, yes.
We just don't know. But that's what they've said. But nevertheless, it does look to be that this thing is certainly in the pipeline and someone working on it, or actively working together, as it were.
So the next question I have to ask, really, old chap, is who on earth is going to play the roles of Link, Zelda, and Ganondorf in this thing? And just a minute, I heard out there 1,000 people at once all shouting a name for Zelda, and who was it? It seems to be Zelda Williams, I hear. Well, I don't know.
Well, that's a very interesting point. Yes, indeed. Who would they bring in? I mean, the writer's one thing, they've got to get the storyline right.
Yeah.
Who would they bring in to actually do the acting? Because they're talking about live action. They're not talking about animations, real actors. So who could it be?
Well,
I mean, you said there Zelda Williams.
I don't know for sure. That's just
Zelda.
a semi-joke, old boy. It could be Zelda Williams. I mean, she is, of course, a fan of Zelda, and, of course, her departed father very much in the news recently with that sad tale there of what happened.
Yes.
So, I mean, many people will have thought of Zelda Williams as a potential candidate for the role, although, of course, it just comes down to, at the end of the day, how good she is at acting, whether or not she could fill that role to the best of her ability, etc., and so forth.
Well, most certainly, of course, a very big one would be Link himself.
Yes.
They may have a young Link and an older Link, of course, we don't know.
Very possible you could have child Link and adult Link. Good thinking there, old chap. Yes,
exactly,
indeed.
and there's a lot of younger actors out there that perhaps could fill the part. They're going to have the right sort of look, otherwise people won't be very happy with that, I wouldn't think.
They'll have to have the blonde hair and the right facial structure, etc., and so forth for the job, and of course the green hood. They must have that green hood, old chap.
Well, they'll have to have that,
yes, and the pointy ears.
And the ears, yes, and of course they can sort that out. But then, of course, you see, it's also Ganondorf.
Ganondorf, right. I know who can be as the actor for Gandalf. I'm thinking someone of a large stature, a commanding presence, lots of clout in the industry. I'm thinking Reggie Fils-Aimé, old chap.
Reggie?
It has to be Reggie. I mean, who else would it be, old boy?
It could be.
It has to be him.
Well, what about Mr. Notch? He could be a good Ganondorf.
Mr. Notch. Well, there you have it. There you are.
He's on the larger size.
We don't need to look any further than these two people for Gandalf. Both of them very suited for the role, I think.
Yes, indeed. I think possibly. Yes, indeed. He could well do. But we
maybe not.
We'll have to see.
Maybe not.
Certainly. What do you think out there?
But I'm sure, seriously speaking, that there are many people who could fill that role very well, and of course existing villains from TV shows like Game of Thrones and what have you.
Well, most certainly, yes, of course. Now, the budget, of course, will be quite important and point towards who they're going to have as actors. Of course, if they put up the stack some extremely popular actor that's very, very well known, they may well have to. The budget will be larger than they've just pulled some out the sack that's really not doing much at the moment.
That's right.
Perhaps like I don't know, like Reggie or something, or Notch.
Don't say if Reggie hears you saying that, he'll get you.
Well,
don't say that.
He does. I'm sure he does things, but he only really works once.
It's too late. You've dug yourself in now. There's no getting out. He's sending the Reginator to get you now.
Well, I'm sure he won't mind. But anyway.
Anyway.
But just thinking about it, who do you out there think that the actors could possibly be in this? And is this something that excites you, or would you say, well, hang on, no, I like playing the game and things, but I don't know whether I want to see real actors acting it out, because perhaps it might take away that from the feel of thing and the image that I've built up over the game over all these years.
Oh, there's something very important I have to say, old chap. Link, is he going to speak?
Oh, well, this is very important as well. And that just reminds me, I was going to mention that. Because, if he's not... I mean, he doesn't speak.
Of course he doesn't.
As soon as you put a voice to that character, you put a person, a life to that character.
Yes.
At the moment, you see, now Link, the character, he's perhaps an individual in the minds and in the hearts of everyone that's played that game.
Yes.
Everyone's got their own way of how he is, perhaps how they hear him in their own head. But of course, as soon as they take that out and put it onto a TV screen and with a real person, they're saying, well, this is the standard, this is Link now.
Exactly.
And people might not like that, you see.
I mean, you've got a prime example there, because of course we all have our image of what Link looks like in our head. We can all see him in our own way of the things he thinks and the things he does and his heroic actions. But also there was another character that perhaps many people had an image of, and that was Samus Aran. We all thought she was this sort of tough girl who went round, bounty hunting. But of course, when they brought out Metroid Other M, it gave her very much a human and perhaps a softer side, which many people just hated, El Shep. I mean, they just didn't like it at all.
Yes, and it can be very, very difficult to shake those things off once they're out there, because you think, well, that's the standard, they've done it, must be that. So they're going to have to be, whatever they do with this TV series, they're going to have to be very, very, very careful that they don't upset the fans, and it has to be done right, or it'll just be a flop.
Exactly, so all of these things must be taken into consideration, Fedels, and indeed I think there are many things to think of when you're looking at a Legend of Zelda live-action TV series. But once again, this is very much in the early stages, just a rumour, but nevertheless very exciting rumour, old chap.
It is, and what do you think out there? Who should be the actors? Should they even do it, or shouldn't they?
Indeed. What do you say, Fedels? Well, I tell you, in the meantime, this has been Game Chef and Bertie bringing you the latest news of the Legend of Zelda live-action TV series possibility. Join us again, Fedels, on the next exciting On My Word. Until then...